Good morning, everyone, and welcome to S-Bank First Half 26 Results Webcast. My name is Riikka Laine-Tolonen, and I am CEO of S-Bank, and together with me here in the studio is Mika Heikkilä, our CFO. If you have any questions, we are very happy to answer those questions after the presentations. I will first talk a bit about highlights from the first half, and then Mika will give more thorough go-through of the financials. All in all, we can summarize the first half that the stable earnings performance continued. Our operating profit was 46.3 million euros, and it was very much in line with our expectations. Actually, the income mix developed positively. The net interest income was 6% lower year on year. However, the net fee and commission income grew with 9% year on year. And it's also worth to notice that the net interest income, when we compare second quarter, was already 6% higher compared to the first one. We have a strong balance sheet. Our capital adequacy ratio rose to 25.5%. Our deposit base grew to 10.7 billion euros. Lending base was stable in a very demanding environment, 9.5 billion euros. And asset under management rose to 9.3 billion euros. We have had a good development when we look at our strategic targets. The number of active customers rose to 896,000. The growth was 74,000 from year on year, and actually almost 40,000 from the beginning of this year. Also, the number of high-value customers is developing as planned. The number of high-value customers was 151,000 in June. Strategically, we are focusing on renewing our service model and accelerating improvements in scalability. After the review period on 9th of July, we announced a public tender offer for Oma Savings Bank PLC shares. I will touch upon this a bit more in this presentation later. However, it's worth noticing that Standard & Poor's, our credit rating agency, confirmed our credit rating and stable outlook after the announcement. The operating environment is showing more positive signs in Finnish economy. However, the housing market has remained subdued. There are positive signs like private consumption has picked up, investments and foreign trade has been strengthened during the first half. Also, the consumer confidence and business confidence have been improved. We actually saw in June that consumer confidence reached its highest level since February 22, and this development has continued in July figures. Interest rate environment is raising. Euribor rates started to raise already in March, and we expect actually one more ECB decision for this year. As mentioned, housing market is subdued, and the first half of 26 was challenging. We saw declining activity and muted price development. There is now one more potential tool to support the recovery, and that is that in June, Finnish FSA raised the housing loan cap to 95% for all borrowers, not only for the first-time home buyers. We welcome this change. And then to our outlook. We have kept our outlook unchanged, and we expect that our operating profit for the whole year would stay at the same or slightly lower level than in 25. And behind this is that we keep our investments related to our strategy on a high level. This outlook is of course subject to uncertainties regarding the operating environment, geopolitical tension, economy, employment and real estate market. Then let's have a look on our business segments, and first banking. Banking continues to be the main contributor to our result and profitability. The customer activity was strong. We saw that as Etukortti Visa card purchases in euros rose with almost 11% year on year. Also, the household deposits continued to grow 8% year-on-year, and now the lending base is 9.9 billion euros. Also, the first half of this year has been strong, growth 490 million euros. The loan portfolio remained quite stable, of course, in this demanding operating environment. Lending book is now 8.2 billion euros and growth 1.1% year-on-year. And as mentioned, housing loan demand was affected by the market. We also see that the housing loan applications decreased with 4.4% during the first half. But then, on the other hand, we are very pleased to see that more and more often customers choose S-Bank as their housing loan bank. And actually, our market share of new housing loans exceeds the stock market share continuously. And that was also happening during the first half. Financial performance of banking, of course, reflects the environment. Operating income was 175.4 million euros, a decrease with 3%, and operating profit 50.5 million euros. And then wealth management, our second business area. Good customer activity continued in wealth management, and we saw a continuous increase in the number of the unit holders in our funds. And that we have now 538,000 unit holders, and the growth is 14% year-on-year. Asset under management increased to 9.3 billion euros, growth 6%. We saw negative development in net subscriptions, and behind this is actually very good corresponding period and some allocation changes, and also few larger redemptions. Operating income developed positively. Operating income was 24.8 million euros, and also the operating profit was positive 600,000. We were once again recognized for award-winning expertise in wealth management. Our S-Pankki High Yield Eurooppa Korko Fund received prestigious LSEG Lipe Fund Awards Nordics Award for the 5th time. And this demonstrates very well our expertise, but also how we consistency are delivering value to customers. And then let's go to our strategy proceedings during this first half. We are now in the midpoint of our strategy period, and all in all, we want to become more customer-focused and digital bank. We have 5 strategic objectives. First, we want to reach 1 million active customers. However, we also want to grow the number of customers who consolidate their banking with us, and the target for this year is 156,000 high-value customers. We aim for ambitious customer experience and reputation and trust. And our profitability targets are below 60% cost-income ratio and above 10% return on equity. We have 3 key change areas. First one was Handelsbanken integration, and now we are working on renewing our service model and improving scalability. And as said, we are now in the midpoint of our strategy journey. First part was much about Handelsbanken integration and then doing the full migration. And now we are focusing on growth. And of course, if the Oma Savings Bank transaction would be completed, it would have an impact already to 27, and especially, of course, to our strategy planning forward. One of the key change areas is renewing our service model, and we want to serve our customers more comprehensively and in a more customer-focused way. We started in 25 to renew the service model, and one of the key kind of ingredients to that was that we want to combine the strengths of S-Bank and also from Handelsbanken. Strong customer expertise, local presence, and nationwide digital operating model. The opportunity is significant. We have a customer base of 3.4 million customers, which is a substantial potential to deepen those customer relationships and increase the use of our products. We have three main objectives. First one is that we are developing our channels to our customers, and we want to make the S-Mobile the starting point for all customer journeys. Second, we want to enhance the value of the customer base. As mentioned, we want to enhance how broadly the customers are using our services and products. And thirdly, we are working on improving the overall customer experience. Our goal is to be the most convenient bank for Finns. How are we then doing? Our journey actually towards an increasingly digital bank continues. And here are some proof points. All in all, when we look at the number of active customers, since 2021, the number of active customers has risen with 68%, and that growth is continuing. Simultaneously, the number of S-Mobile users, this is the number of average number of users, it is growing as well. Since 2021, the number of S-Mobile users has grown with 79%. At the same time, we can see that the demand for human service in our service points and customer service, that has decreased with 14%. So this is showing very well that we are able to scale the growing active customer base very well. And this development has continued. This year we also see that customers are adopting digital services and the decline in personal intensive channels is decreasing. We estimate 4% decrease. And S-Mobile is in the core of our service model, and it keeps growing in popularity, and also the new features what we bring to S-Mobile are adopted quickly. This is very much what our customers are expecting. 95% of our active customers say that they prefer doing their daily banking in digital banking channels, and especially in S-Mobile. And the app reach continues to grow. We have now 2.7 million users, 1.7 million using our S-Mobile on weekly level. And the NPS is high, it is 64. This year we have continued to bring new features to S-Mobile. As an example, chatbot is now there available 24/7. During this strategy period, we have launched 34 new self-service banking features in S-Mobile, and they are getting a good traction. Here you can see some examples. As an example, 52% of children services are open digitally. And then let's talk about the tender offer for the shareholders of Oma Savings Bank. Before going to the actual tender offer, I want to highlight that S-Bank has been growing both organically and non-organically since its beginning in 2007. So we have been able to seize the opportunities when they have emerged, and most recently we did the Handelsbanken transaction. We acquired Handelsbanken Finnish private customers and wealth services. And we have executed very well. Our track record shows that we are disciplined with execution and successful with the integration. And this is, of course, a very good base for this tender offer for Oma Savings Bank, which is the next potential step in this journey. So the public tender offer in brief. On 9th of July, S-Bank and Oma Savings Bank entered into combination agreement, and based on that, we launched a public tender offer for Oma Savings Bank PLC shares. We have a good support already in place. Major shareholders of Oma Savings Bank, representing nearly 60% of owners, have committed to accept the offer. And also the Oma Savings Bank board is anonymously recommending it. The offer is 17.20 euros per share, and that equals to, yes, that is 17.20 per share. And that is, of course, directed to approximately 10,000 owners of shareholders of Oma Savings Bank. Our aim is to acquire all issued and outstanding shares and ultimately delist the share. The timeline of the offer is that it runs from 17th of July until the end of 25th September, unless extended. And we expect that the completion would happen during the final quarter of 26. And the strategic rationale behind this is that this transaction would strengthen S-Bank's market position, accelerate growth, and make us an even stronger alternative for customers. Shareholders are offered a premium. So Oma Savings Bank shareholders are offered an opportunity to sell their shares at this price. Of course, they have also an opportunity to decline. The premium, when we look at the volume-weighted average trading price during the last 12 months, the premium is 52.5%. And when we look at the closing price on 8th of July, the premium is 47%. And this price totals to 571.4 million euros. And as mentioned, we aim to acquire at least 90% threshold of the shares and votes, and that would enable compulsory redemption of remaining minority of the shares, and ultimately, as mentioned, delisting Oma Savings Bank. There are, of course, approvals needed for this kind of a transaction, and we expect regulatory approvals from Finnish Competition and Consumer Authority, Finnish FSA, and European Central Bank. We have a very strong readiness for this transaction. We are well positioned already. However, also our owners are supporting us with directed share issue up to 400 million euros. This is, of course, important and ensures strong capital structure also going forward. Here are some important dates. As mentioned, the tender offer process is now running, and the document of the tender offer with all the details was published on 16th of July. And now the period is running, and we end the expiration of the offer period 25th of September, unless extended. And then the final transaction would happen, and also the share prices would be paid during the final quarter of this year. Also, please note that the account operators will send the shareholders, of course, their own information. However, we have also launched a webpage, S-Pankki.fi/tender offer, which we are delivering all the material, and we are also continuously updating this webpage if there would be new information. So this is good to follow if you are a shareholder. A bit about the strategic rationale, some more points. So S-Bank would move to new size category. And this, of course, would enable even better the investments to meet customers' raising needs and the requirements that are increasing from the operating environment, like regulatory demands or investments needed to new technology. The scale would be larger. The number of active customers would be more than 1 million. We would have 15 billion lending base, 14 in deposits, and then 10 billion asset under management. And of course, the market position and our competitiveness would be strengthened. As an example, we would have 9% share of housing loan market. And a new thing, the largest change to our strategy would be that we would also become active in small and medium entrepreneur banking. There would be also 600 new colleagues that we would welcome to new S-Bank from Oma Savings Bank. All in all, we would become even stronger alternative for customers. So, as mentioned, we would strategically expand to SME corporate banking. And this would be, of course, supported with Oma Savings Bank established expertise, customer base and local relationships. And this would make us even stronger alternative and now also for corporate customers. This would also diversify our income structure. As mentioned, the new scale would enable better the investments that are meeting the customers, raising expectations, but also the needs and demands from the operating environment, like regulatory demands and new technology investments. We strongly believe that this would also enhance the overall service promise for cooperative members. And we have a very good proven ability to execute this kind of a transactions and this capability together with similarities within customer base, products and services and systems would of course support also the realization of synergy benefits. To summarize the first half, all in all, the development of towards our strategic targets is progressing well, also the first half this year. The number of active customers has now risen to 896,000, very well on track towards our 1 million active customer target. Also, the number of high-value customers is developing as planned, 151,000 in June this year. Customer experience is on excellent level. It is now 51 after the first half, a bit lower than end of last year, but still an excellent level. Return on equity, 7.1%. This, of course, demonstrates our strong capital base. Cost-to-income ratio, 71%. And here you can see that we are heavily investing in executing our strategy. And then strongest reputation and trust in the banking industry, 3.79 index points end of last year. All in all, to summarize, stable earnings performance continued. We are working on renewing our service model and accelerating improvements in scalability. The customer activity and customer growth has been strong, both when we look at active customers and high-value customers. And then after the review period, one of the highlights is, of course, the public tender offer for Oma Savings Bank PLC shares. And with this, I will give over to Mika. Here you go.
Thank you. Yes, so start with the total income and operating profit. On the left-hand side, you can see that the total income was 100 million in Q2, which is clearly above the level in Q1 and also the level in Q2 last year or previous year. The growth over last year was around 2%. When we look a little bit more detail, total income, we can see clearly that the net interest income has turned into the growth track. It was totally 70 million in the Q2, and actually the growth started already from Q4 on. As Riikka mentioned, also the net fee income also increased in the Q2. When we look at the operating profit, we can see that the profit has been very stable in recent quarters, ending 24 million in Q2 this year. On the left-hand side, if we look at the operating cost, they were totally 71 million in Q2, as they were 66 million in previous year. So there is totally growth 7.7%. And if we take the whole 6 months period, there was growth almost 3%. Cost income ratio was this 71%, and total income to total assets was 2.9%. As earlier mentioned, our deposit growth has been very strong during this period. In 12 months period, it has been totally this 6.8%, but especially the household customers 7.6%, and the corporate customers has decreased 2.2%. And totally this growth has been this 681 million during the 12 months period. Lending up only slightly due to the market conditions, and it was totally this 9.5 billion. And we can see that the household customers growth was this 1.1% in 12 months period, and the corporate customers minus 2%. Asset under management also nice growth, 6.4% in the 12 months period. We can see that the fund capital, especially in the 12 months period, has changed almost 13%. When we look our credit quality, we can see that the repayment holidays they had remained very steady. The share of them with household loans was 5.9% at the end of June. And also credit losses, they have been quite stable in recent quarters. In Q2, it was 5.3 million, and there has been increase in total ECL provision this year, and we can see that both in stage 2 and stage 3 provision has increased during this year. NPL ratio was a little bit up. It was 2% at the end of June. Our balance sheet was totally 13.7 billion, and it's due to the growth in deposit base. And as the loan increase has been quite moderate, the excess has allocated to the liquidity and investment portfolios. We didn't have any issuances during this period. Our own funds capital requirements, modest growth in the total risk exposure amount, which was almost 4.2 billion euros at the end of June. And also, of course, the own funds increased during this period. And we still have very good buffers in MREL requirements. The total MREL requirement was this 1,066 million, and our own funds and eligible liabilities were 1.6 billion. So there is this 500 million buffer above the requirement. Our equity ratio was 7.7% at the end of June, and we have very robust capital buffers. The capital adequacy was this 25.5%, which is almost twice as much the requirement. And also CET1 was this 23.5% at the end of June. Here, our liquidity investment portfolios, we can see that there has been clear growth there. It was totally this 3.9 billion at the end of June. Both our deposit in central bank has grown clearly, and also in our total investment portfolio, and there especially the investment grade bank bonds. Our liquidity is and has been very strong, and the LCR was this 342% at the end of June. The level 1 assets comprised this 96% of the portfolio, and all in all, it's very strong position at the moment. And here the summary of our key figures. So also our loan to deposit ratio was this 89%, which reflects that we have very solid funding base. Our credit quality remained very stable. We have very strong liquidity, and the capital base is very robust, which supports our growth opportunities. So that was the last page of my presentation.
Thank you, Mika. And I just got the confirmation that there are no questions. So we are happy to close the webcast, and thank you for your attention and wish you very nice summer days going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.